Let's bring in our guest, the Commissioner for Waterfront Development, Lagos State, Ekundaya Alebiosu. He joins us right here in our Lagos City. Good to see you again.
Same here.
Looking sharp as always. I don't know, maybe you got the memo. I didn't get the memo. And to the business of the day, Mr. Alebiosu, I think that was early this week, we had a conversation with some persons. The people that, they said they were not the ones that blocked Oworonshoki, the road. But you know what happened, the demolition exercise. So we said, okay, what is your concern? They talked about the fact that, I've forgotten the term they use, more like, let me use another term, more like let them remodel their structures to fit standard and all of that. So we asked them, what kind of structures are you living in? They said they were living in shanties and all of that, so the government was not comfortable. They said not all of them were living in shanties. So depending on who you're asking, there are different versions of the same event. What really is playing out with, especially that Oro incident?
Well, first of all, that happens to be my constituency. It's where I've always lived, where I grew up, where I was born, where I've represented. I really feel for our residents, my constituents. It's a very painful thing. But the understanding I have, that didn't come from my ministry. It came from, I believe it was physical planning with LABCA. And from the findings that I did, I think there were issues. There were several issues according to them, and I was in my state assembly member representing constituency 1 also took it up, and we got to discover that they had said that they had written some people over time, but they didn't have respond to coming to perfect their planning approvals. That was the much I got. I had just gotten in from out of town on that day, so I'd missed a chunk of it, but the much I got of it was that. However, I think there was some level of intervention where some had said they did have their building plan approval, so it was a case of fair hearing at that point in time to say, okay, bring forth whatever documents that you have to that effect. But when we pressed this, they said that they had been at it with the residents of that particular area over a 3-year period or thereabout. But I would say that the best persons to speak to that would be either the HC, would be particularly the Honorable Commissioner of Physical Planning.
So, but I wonder what the concerns for you are. I mean, for you are the Commissioner for Waterfront.
Correct.
You have been quoted as saying there is some danger around the lagoon.
Pressure on the lagoon, yes. There are lots of them. So
from the standpoint of those analyses, what's the concern?
There are a lot of concerns. We just had our summit on Thursday, the 11th of September, and thank God that it was a huge success. We were able to speak to each other bluntly. We had community leaders, we had business owners, we got to realize that there's no way on earth that certain things would happen in that community, or in those communities, without members of the community being aware of it. Yes, there are exceptional cases where you'd see a vessel, a dredging vessel in Ikoyi, however, siphoning or dredging sand from Ikorodu. Now they're going as far as 10 kilometers away. And this is as a result of unregulated dredging. Several things that caused it. The rift between I would say the state agencies and the government agencies, not particularly peculiar to Lagos State. It's been an issue over time. And we're saying, for me, my concern is, how do we protect lives and properties first? When we talk about fresh water, we're talking about the lagoon, not the Atlantic. The lagoon is what feeds us, all the fish, all of that. Now, there's open defecation in the lagoon. We see them dumping stuff in the lagoon. We see dredging. There's constant pollution in the lagoon. The borehole we all sink at home and drink from, where do we think it comes from? The lagoon as well. And when we continue to abuse the lagoon, then danger looms. You know, there's a saying that choice and freedom are 2 great gifts of life. But if unchecked freedom impacts choice, danger looms. We've seen cases where some are of the opinion that, well, it's our land, it's our community, we can do as we wish. No, nature is not something we toy with. Now we're dealing with all sorts of things. In those days, what do you think is causing the sudden rise in the price of fish or seafood? It's not the dollar, they're in there. It's the constant disturbance, pollution. And of course, they would continue to move further in. The fishermen will continue to go further out after them. What you're supposed to pay next to nothing for. You now find out sometimes you're thinking of what use, they're saying that of what use are the eyes when the man cannot see. Of what use is the lagoon when you can't even afford to buy fish.
So let's stay with, before we get to the waters, let's stay with that issue of the dredging, because it poses several layers of danger.
Absolutely.
My concern here is, where should we put the blame? Because government is in charge of all of this. I know you have talked about the state, perhaps, and the federal government on all of this. So whether individuals, because I heard the governor was very tough with his words during the summit you organized on Thursday last week. What should we be looking at right now in terms of enforcement?
A complete turnaround. A couple of weeks ago, we visited the Ladoi-Lashe axis to see. We rode together on the same boat, and we saw certain things. Definitely, enforcement is a key. It's the most important thing. If you see. Monitoring, rather, is the most important thing, because you can't enforce if you don't monitor. You continue to patrol. It's quite expensive, because boats are way more expensive to maintain, to fuel than vehicles. Tougher sanctions. We've seen that most of the things, some of the legislative some of the legislative provisions are really not as strong as they should be to deal with the issues. And these are the things, this was what the summit was all about, where everybody had to come together, put everything on the table and say, how do we go about it? Some are already clamoring for a lagoon, like the security trust fund. Some were clamoring there for a lagoon trust fund. Some are clamoring for a monitoring agency. They're different things. However, it's not what the federal government can do alone. It's not what the state government can do alone. It has to be a collective. It has to be a collective thing. We're also going to be deploying a monitoring technology, which will reduce. We expect would reduce some things, but it has to be a mix of several things that we put in place. To deter people from doing it. Right. You know, they say the law may not change the hearts of men, but it will certainly change the habits of men.
I think the anger for many persons whose properties have been demolished is the fact that where was the Lagos state government from when we got approvals? Well, I don't know where, but some said they got approvals from foundation level, and then the builds lived there. So it's like, you build, and all of a sudden, from nowhere, the Lagos state government comes so many years after to demolish. So some are asking, where is the state government, or where was the state government, rather, when these persons acquired those properties and then had to build on it for many years and all of that? You know, they keep asking, where, because if you were present, you wouldn't allow them build in the first place.
Well, we're always, the state government is always present, but like I said, this is my constituency. I'm stuck between my mother and my father here. I'm stuck between the government that I swore allegiance to protect the law and to do this, to do that on the day of the swearing in. And I'm also stuck between the people that I grew up with, the people that I have had the opportunity and the privilege to represent. I have an understanding of what the requirements of the law. I also have an understanding from a humane point of view what had happened to them. However, the best person again to speak on this will be the Commissioner for Physical Planning. Now, when you talk about Oworonshoki, for me, it's about how do we develop it? How do we take advantage of what we have to get what we want. We're locating a jetty there. We're locating a scheme there, a waterfront scheme. And we believe strongly that with the location of those two things in the Oworonshoki axis, it'll impact positively. It will obviously shoot up property value and things like that there. Across the road from that, the Bariga Jetty, we're looking at, we're currently working on converting it into a fish market. Okay. So that I'll be better, talking about than...
We're totally out of time. I know that whenever we have you, there's also a mixture of you taking the heat for environment, physical planning. Because when we hear Waterfront, it's a mixed bag of everything. Yeah, so let's give you opportunity to do your thing in 30 seconds. The big plan, the big picture for Waterfront development. Oh, absolutely.
We have to do them in pockets. We're looking at, we're working on some proposals at changing the Woliola-Tejo axis. We're still working on it. We're almost through now. The Oworonshoki one is through. We're just looking at putting in landmark things that will actually make people like me more comfortable actually referring to our waterfront as our waterfront, where they're able to compete with any other place in the world.
Miami.
We'll get there eventually. It's just consistency. If you look at it, there's going to be the F1 race in Lagos. The water sport game will be likes of DJ Drogba and people like that coming here. All of this is just to boost tourism and waterfront activities.
Yeah, we'll definitely catch up with you when those plans start getting into full gear. Kundayo Alebioso is the Commissioner for Waterfront Development, who always is mistaken for physical planning and environment. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. Sunrise Daily is up next at the top of the hour. Good morning.
I'm Kelly Giga. Have a productive day.